Hi, I am doing one of my first videos. I normally don't do this, and actually it's out of my comfort zone and something I don't like to do. But it's something that's been on my heart that I felt like I should do at some point. And I've talked to some people about it and have thought about it and contemplated it, so I'm just gonna go for it. What I hope to do here in this video, it's actually gonna turn out to be really long, I believe. Let's talk about my story. As many of you know, I'm adopting my second child from China. So my story is going to revolve somewhat around that. I say that because I get asked all the time, why adoption, why China, how come you're doing this? There's kids here. How do you do it? Why do you do it? How did it start? What's the process? On and on. I get it all the time. As a matter of fact, the other day at work, I couldn't work because people kept wanting to talk about it. So I thought if they had those questions, maybe some other of my friends and family had the same questions and thoughts and concerns or just curiosity. So I love to talk about it. This is my passion. So I'm just going to make a video, see how it goes. And the truth is, I hope this story some way, somehow will inspire somebody else. I actually read a quote this morning. It says, "Don't be ashamed of your story. It will inspire others." So I hope this story of my journey and my life, not really my story, God's story again, can inspire somebody else. I've walked it. I'll show you some things that I maybe did right or did wrong and how I came to be in this crazy, my crazy life that I've created myself. So I'll do a little intro, but just so you know, some of people don't know, I actually have 2 kids already. I have a bio son and one I adopted from China. So I have Cade and Ashlyn right now, and I'm in the process of number 3, a little boy. But anyway, so my story starts actually a very long time ago. Hold on, I'm gonna take a drink. My story actually started in 9th grade. You know, I was raised in a Christian family home, a great mom and dad and a sister, and I went to a private Christian school my whole life. In college, you know, I had a good foundation. I really did. Well, in 9th grade, our English teacher made us do this assignment. And for some reason, I remember this, and it's stuck to me forever. Our assignment in 9th grade, and this was probably in 94, 95 years ago. I was 15 years old at the time, maybe 14 or 15, and we had to write a biography. Our biography was of our life from beginning to end. We plan our future, our life, our school, marriage, kids, retirement, even death. I know it sounds crazy, but to me it was really interesting, and I really did put some thought in it. So you just make it up. It's supposed to be kind of fun. Well, you know, I went to school. I graduated high school. I went to college, which I did. I got a business degree. I got married. I had 3 kids. And the 4th one, I adopted a little girl from China. And my life went on. I lived in Dallas. I retired in Colorado, on and on. There's some goals I still want to do. At 15, I already knew I was going to do this. I had no idea about adoption. I don't even have a boyfriend at this time. I didn't know anybody in my family or friends that have adopted from China. I didn't know much about it or about the process, but I knew I was meant to do that. So from early on, even years before that, I knew I wanted to adopt. There's no rhyme or reason to that. I don't know. When people ask, how did you know? I don't know. I was just born with it. It's always been a passion. A concern is something I always wanted to do. So I wrote it down. 9th grade I did. So as the time went on, I did get married. I married years ago. He was in the military, or joined the military, and it was during the war in the early 2000s, mid 2000s. I don't know if you guys remember, that was really big during Iraq, Iran, and Afghanistan. So we went through the wartime. During that time, we had a baby. So we had our first son, my son Cade, who is now 12. You know, he was born. Life was great. Then we moved back to Oklahoma. Well, Oklahoma's home. I'm from Oklahoma. So we moved back to Oklahoma, and about a year or 2 after that, my husband at the time had an affair. He cheated on me with my friend who was also married and our babysitter at the time. I don't know if many of you know this. I don't ever talk about it, so this is me being vulnerable and humble and open right here. So he cheated on me and my life changed. I told him to stop. We were together at this point almost 10 years. And I was like, please stop. And if you do, I'll forgive you and we can move on. Well, apparently he didn't want to stop with his girlfriend. So in lieu of that, because of that, we got divorced. It was a rocky hell of a time. I know many of you have probably been through a divorce or know people going through a divorce, but it was horrible. He was my best friend. We went to war, and we moved around. We went through college together, had a kid to get on and on. And out of the blue, he cheats on me. I had no idea. To be honest, I'm going to back up my story a little bit. Right during apparently his affair, in the middle of that, I remember God speaking to me and I felt led to practice my faith. And God's like, you're doing good. Why don't you start tithing? And I was like, well, God, that's cool and all, and that's a commandment, but we don't make a lot of money. I don't have a lot to spare. That sounds silly. This is whatever. And God's like, you need to start tithing, Sherry. I was like, my husband, he's not into that. We don't care. It's fine, God. And he kept going, God kept going after me. And finally, I was like, okay, God. At this time, I was in real estate. I know many of you know I sold houses for years and years. And I was like, okay, God, my next house sell, I'm going to give 10% to the church. I'm going to tithe my 10%. Would you know, the next week, I listed a big old house, one of my biggest houses I listed, and I live in Edmond, at the time, this was years ago. And I was like, there's so many houses for sale. It was a down economy. This is in 2009. I don't know if you guys remember in 2008, the market crashed and all was hell and it was slow. And I'm just building my real estate business during the worst time ever. Ended up being really good for me. So I listed it. I was like, I don't know if it's going to sell. The house sold in 10 days. And I was like, oh my God, yay, I got the house sold. And then the other part of me was like, oh crap. I promised God I would give him 10% of this commission check. And this is going to be a good commission check. And we need the money. We need to pay bills. We don't have much. We're just a young couple. I really need this. But I promised God, so I wrote the check. Would you guys not know, out of the blue, I sold 7 houses that exact same month in 2009 in the worst economy ever. And I had 7 closings within 30 days. Every single one of those I would tie back. I was like, oh my gosh, God. And then more would come. And I had more buyers and more sellers. And I am going nuts when all these other seasoned realtors are begging for business, dying, actually getting out of business and retiring or switching jobs completely. And I'm over here, a newbie, have no idea what I'm doing. And I am just going crazy. I blame it on God. And that was my step of faith. I took one step of faith and he blessed me. You give him the first part of your crops, he will give you the rest. You give God your best, he'll do the rest. And that's all I did. I didn't know what I was doing. Well, so after this, a few months later, I'm like, I'm doing good. My business is going. Granted, I'm working nonstop to keep up with all this because I'm by myself working this and raising a 3-year-old and potty training him. I remember that summer. Anyhow, I found out my ex is cheating on me. It was devastating, you guys. My best friend left me for a little girl. It was over. I hit rock bottom. I was depressed. I wasn't eating. I wasn't thinking clearly. I was mad at God. I shattered. I hit rock bottom. But you know what the cool thing is? When you hit rock bottom, guess what the rock is? The rock is Jesus. And I shattered on Jesus. Because I always thought I was a Christian. I don't think I became a Christian until that year. That is when I found God. I had 2 choices during this time and I knew it. Hold on. my choices were, during this divorce, I was depressed. I could do what the world does and what TV does. Sex, drugs, and rock and roll, party, eat ice cream in bed, eat chocolate, go spend everything. So I could do that, which is easy and fun. I can numb myself out. I'm good. I can numb myself out and forget about everything. Or I can use this as a stepping stone and go higher. Walk the righteous path. Go stronger and go higher. Don't look back. And I remember I'm sitting here, right, fresh in my divorce when I just found out he left. He abandoned me and Cade. And I remember I was like, God, this sucks. Why are you doing this to us? And I remember God said, Sherry, it was one of the few times he actually spoke to me. Me and God are real tight now. God's my everything. And I remember God, and I was crying out, and God's like, Sherry, go read James 1:2. I'm like, whatever. I was in a bad mood, and I'm like, this is silly. And I'm contemplating which side. I have one, the evil human side, or this side, like, be God, be good, the angel side. And I'm contemplating. God says, read James 1:27. I don't know if you know this verse. It says, consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. Let perseverance finish its work so that you may mature and complete, not lacking anything. When God gave me that verse, truly, I'm home alone at this night, and that came to my mind. And I read that. I read the whole chapter. The chapter of James is fabulous. And I realized at that moment, this is a test. God tested me in faith in my giving. That was kind of easy. Now he's testing me in my faith in my divorce. I'm going to be a single mom on commission sales in a down economy in real estate in little town, Oklahoma. This is my big test. And so when he gave me that, it was a comfort. I like a challenge, I knew he was with me, and I knew he was watching over this, and he was watching me play it out. So I'm like, at that moment, I made my decision. I'm not going to do what the world says. I'm not going to get revenge. I'm not going to sit around and eat chocolate. I'm not going to go out and party and screw around and everything that you see on the movies and TV. Yes, that was in my mind. It was a hard decision until I found this. So whenever I hit my rock bottom, God saved me. He rescued me. Long story short, I went through months, hours of counseling. I had the best counselor. I went to my counselor on my darkest of days. If it wasn't for my counselor, I would not be here today. That probably sounds shocking to some of you, but it was bad. I asked for medication. He never gave it to me. He's like, Sharon, I'm going to heal your heart whole. He was a Christian counselor. And there are days I would go 2 or 3 times per week. I paid his mortgage multiple times over, but it was totally worth it to rebuild myself. I was already shattered. I knew I was already at the bottom. I had to rebuild, but I wanted to rebuild as a whole person. And that is who I am today. So with that, with their counseling, with our divorce, it was a bankruptcy. Not only do we have that, we had a bankruptcy on top of it. It was crazy. I would go run. So running in Mitch Park, which is in Edmond, it's a 3-mile track. I call it my sanctuary. It's the only place where my soul is quiet enough to hear God. And I would go out running and run. I'm not a runner. I hate running. And I'd run, but I would pray and cry and talk to him through this whole divorce. Everything was going on. I mean, it was awful. Like, my ex would come home, drunk, yelling and screaming at me, slamming doors. It was whatever you can imagine happened. And I remember I just got out there and I'd run. I was like, this is a spiritual battle. You cannot fight a spiritual battle with human ways. You fight a spiritual battle with spirit, with spiritual things. The Bible, reading, praying with God. God is on your side. I have a soldier of armies around me. I know. I feel them. They protect me. It's great. So that is where I found my God is during that year. So life goes on after a divorce, and I knew I still had my passion of adopting an orphan child. I thought I would get remarried quickly after the divorce. Apparently, God had other plans. I did not. And as the years went on, I bought a house for me and Cade by myself, and I was doing great things. And at that time, I was like, I need to go get my daughter. She's in China. I'm now a single mom, but that passion is still a burden on my heart. That's really my passion. So I didn't know if I'm playing mind games again or if it's just me dreaming about what I want to do. So I'm like, what if I go on a mission trip to China to work with orphans? So being myself, my crazy self, I go online and I Google Chinese orphan mission trips. And at that time, many popped up. And long story short, I researched and, I talked to people. Well, I applied for a trip in China with visiting orphans. And I got on the team and I'm like, oh, this is great. I'm gonna go over there, test myself. If I like it, then maybe it's meant to be that I'm supposed to go adopt. So I do go over to China. As you guys probably follow my story, ironically, when I'm recording this, is exactly 4 years ago today, I left for my first China trip. And I went over there with a group of Americans. There's 11 or 12 of us. Became great friends. I'm still friends with a lot of them. But the truth is, I fell in love with these Chinese orphans. I got there, and I'm like, this is home. My heart and my soul were home. We went to 2 orphanages, which is sad and amazing. One of them, I'm going to tell you a story, a God story, was in the city called Yangling Shanxi. I'm probably mispronouncing that, but it's one of the orphanages. And we go in there and we got to work with the babies and the nannies and help them throughout the day. And I remember at this particular orphanage, there was an older girl there who kind of, to me, was ornery and just the unwanted one, right? In my opinion, anyway. And I remember thinking, she needs a family. She needs a home. And I didn't really think much about it. It was great. And then the next week, we go to another orphanage in another city in the same province and work at a different orphanage. Those babies are, oh my gosh, amazing. Not a day doesn't go by that I don't think about them. Hold on just a second. And at this orphanage, I found my passion in my heart. I love that. And I knew I was called to adopt an orphan from China. So when we were gone, I think about 2 weeks, we came home. Immediately the next day, I started the process. The first step was to change my name legally. I don't know if you guys remember, I was Sherry Sink for 10 years, and I legally had to change my name back to Sherry Benson because I knew I wanted to adopt and I wanted her to have my name. So I started the process of changing my name, which I did. That was great. Talked to a bunch of agencies, started researching, looking up kids, on and on. Well, I went through a couple of files and whatnot, and I remember this one girl. She caught my eye by her smile. She's older. And I was looking at her, and then the adoption agency sent me the file, and I sent it over to our team leader. I'm not going to name drop a whole bunch of names. So anyway, our team leader I just got back from China with, I was like, hey, I emailed it to her, take a look at this and tell me what you think. I think this might be my daughter. And she looked at it, and I can't remember, like that same day, the next day, she emailed me back. She's like, oh my gosh, Sherry, look where she's from. We were just there. She was in the orphanage where we just came from. You guys, I think Ashlyn was the girl I thought was ornery, and I looked at her and said she needed a family. And that's who she was. The chances of that happening are 1 in a billion. Like, how many orphans are in the country of China? Thousands. How many orphanages? Tons of orphanages. The one I was at was the one where my daughter was at, and I wasn't even looking. I was just going there to test my heart. And it was actually where I found her. It was incredible. Then I showed it to my mom, and I was like, hey mom, I think this is gonna be my daughter, what do you think? And she looked at her birthday, and she's like, oh my gosh, Sherry, her birthday is my dad's birthday. My grandpa Carver. And I was like, oh my gosh. Well, anyway, long story short, as you know, I accepted her. I named her Ashlyn, and I don't know if you guys know this. Her name is spelled Lynn. Well, my grandpa's name was Leonard Carver. I never met him. He died years before I was born. He's my mom's dad. But they called him Lynn, and they spelled Lynn Lynn. I named Ashlyn not knowing this. Well, when I named her, my mom goes, Sherry, that's my dad's name. And I'm like, oh my God, this is Grandpa Carver's little girl. A girl, he would be so happy to have a Chinese baby in his family forever. Ashlyn with the same name and the birthday. I had no idea. And it was at the same orphanage I was at. I was like, oh my God, it gives me chills as a godsend. So, as you know, and you guys follow my story, she did come home. She is an American. She is my forever daughter. She's had multiple surgeries. She came up with special needs. I knew she had special needs, just not the extent of special needs. So she has scoliosis, tuberculosis, tethered cord, cleft foot, and limb differences. She did have one surgery in Beijing on the cleft foot. Since here we had the tethered cord release, which was the huge spine surgery that was, oh my gosh, though I found God again during that. And the cleft foot surgery that we just did back and forth to St. Louis, that was a tendon transfer on the foot. And casting, it was 9 months of casting, 6 months of PT. I don't know if you watched and follow me on Facebook. Excuse me, you probably saw all of those pictures of me doing that. It's intense. Having a special needs child and working full time and trying to make it all work, I don't know, it was intense. I want to back up my story a little bit. Whenever I was going through the adoption process with her, and I came back from China, and I know I wanted to start it for Ashlyn. I knew I was called to do that. I knew this was my zone, if you go to Life Church, or my purpose, my purpose for life. I knew that. And I was like, okay, God, I will do my purpose. But I only, at the time, whenever I started her adoption, had maybe $5,000 or $6,000 to my name. And I don't know if you guys know, international adoptions are like $30,000+. I'm like, God, I'll do this. And I want to do it. Oh my God, I want to do it so bad. But you're going to have to provide every penny. You guys, I know you saw this and you all were a part of it. And I can't ever thank you enough. I don't tell you thank you enough. I raised $30,000 in 6 months. I don't know how I did it. You know, I sold silly things, you know, selling t-shirts and wine and paint and all this stuff. I'd do anything to get her here. And I did. And miraculously, somehow it worked. And they actually approved me during this time. I remember during the time of the adoption process with Ashlyn, you know, as you've heard, it's lots of paperwork. I remember, because I work full time, right? I would wake up on Saturdays, home alone, and it would take me a whole day filling out paperwork, researching, doing all of this stuff, right? I remember one day, it was in January, maybe February, I'm sitting at my little desk, you know, filling out all this paperwork, and God comes over me and says, you're going back to get a little boy. Oh my gosh, my heart dropped. I remember I literally pushed my little chair out and I literally laughed out loud. I was like, no, I'm not, God. I'm not even done with number one. I don't even know if number one adoption is even gonna work or if I'm even gonna get qualified. Why the hell would you tell me, a single mom, that have no money, to go back for another child? And so I pushed the thought aside. Yeah, as you know my story, it did go on. I did get her and it actually worked. The crazy thing is, when I came back to America with Ashlyn, you will not believe, nor I, how many people would come up to me and like, hey, do you have 2 kids from China? For some reason, I thought you were getting 2. I'm like, no, oh hell no, I'm not getting 2. And I go somewhere else or talk to somebody else or some coworker or something, like, I thought you were getting another one. Don't you have like 3 kids now? I'm like, no, I do not. I only have 1. It was hard enough. I'm not going to do another one. On and on. These memories kept coming up, or these thoughts, and I kept pushing them aside. I'm like, I am never going to do this. This is crazy. This is unheard of. No, I'm not going to get another child. Well, Before Ashlyn started her spine or her foot surgery this summer, I had a pivotal moment in my life. It was March 22nd, or March 26, 2007. It was a Sunday. Me, Ashlyn, and Cade were driving back from church, going to go eat Sunday lunch at Fezzi's Tacos in Edmond. Typical day, that's normal, we do that often. And Ashlyn's in the back seat having one of her adoption temper tantrum meltdowns. If you're an adopted mom, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I don't know what triggered this at this particular day, but she's kicking and screaming and hitting my chair. Cade's in the front seat. I'm starving, hungry for lunch. And we pull up, third parking spot, Fezzi's Taco Memorial, and God says to me, Sherry, go now. Your little boy is waiting for you. I cried. It shook me from the inside out. It was so loud. It was so clear. I remember my appetite was completely gone. The kids went in and we ate. I'm like, no. Not only no, but hell no, God. You know how I talk to God. Ashlyn's having a meltdown. I'm not in the mood for this. This is the worst timing to say anything like this to me, God. I'm hungry. It's Sunday. I don't want to do this. And God's like, yeah, I need to. I knew he called me out. He called me out so strong that day. So the days go on. I try to shake the feeling off. And I even called one of my good friends. That's a good spiritual leader. She's probably watching this. And I was talking and I was like, I don't want to tell anybody this. And I don't want to say this out loud. But I'm supposed to go back to China and get a boy. And I don't want to. And my friend on the phone's like, I was wondering if you're going to go do that now. And I'm like, how did you know the same time and same day that was what I'm battling it's my secret battle in my head? And I'm like, yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna have to pray about this because I don't want to do it. And I remember as the days went on, I was folding clothes, maybe in that day or the next day. And for some reason, our TV was on. This channel is never on. It's the TBN channel, the cartoon channel. And this particular cartoon at that day was Jonah in the well. And I was walking by and it was like, Jonah's disobedience led him, he was thrown in the well for 3 days. I remember walking by there, I was like, God, don't throw me in the well for disobeying you, for not going back to China to get a little boy. I remember thinking that, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm supposed to obey and I'm fighting. I'm like, no, the days go on. And the longer the days went on, the louder and clearer my calling got. And I was like, oh, hell no, I don't want to do it. Well, so this summer, we're going back and forth to St. Louis every 2 weeks, right, for Ashlyn's clubfoot surgery and changing her cast. We were really going there for casting. She had, I don't remember, like 6 different casts on her leg. Anyhow, as we're going back and forth, God is really calling me out. Sherry, that your son's there. Why aren't you getting your son? I saved him for you, you for him. You got to go back. And I remember this summer, like within a 30-day time frame, my car broke down. I had it towed. My transmission went out. True story. My Jeep. I love my Jeep, but my transmission went out. I had to get towed. I was on 63rd Street. Then, like a week or 2 later, the water pump and the radiator went out. Then I had 2 back-to-back water slab leaks in my personal home where they had to tear out concrete. I came home from St. Louis one time and there was standing water in my garage, so I had to get that fixed. My TV broke, my lawnmower broke, all these bad things were happening. The whole time during this, God's like, go get your son. And the whole time I'm like, oh no, I'm not gonna do it. I got one, I'm good enough. God, I satisfied you, I got my one. And he kept calling me back, and finally I was like, God, why don't you freaking give me a husband? I'm a single mom. Why would I want to get 3 kids? My little boy is also special needs. And I go, 2 of them that are all special needs. Why would you pick this? No, I don't. Why don't you pick somebody better? I'm unqualified. I don't have enough money. I don't have a big enough house, on and all my excuses, right? I was like, God, I need a husband, and I want a husband. I want to do this with somebody. And God's like, no, this is for you. And I remember I went back to my sanctuary, to my running, my Mish Park, right? It was in the middle of summer. We probably just got back from St. Louis. And actually, before I tell you the story, I'm gonna tell you one more story. Because my car broke down and I was really like, oh my gosh, I think I'm gonna have to adopt whether I want to or not. I was looking up houses because I wanted a bigger house, and I was looking up adoption websites. I was in my bed one night with my laptop open with 3 tabs: realtor.com, a car website, and a couple of adoption sites. And I remember I looked at that. I was like, 3 big things in somebody's life I am doing at the same time. And I literally laughed and shut it. I was like, oh no, Sherry, you can't do this by yourself. What are you thinking? So I just shut it. Funny story is, spoiler, all 3 of those happened within 5 months of that. Don't ask me how, that was a God thing. Anyhow, so I went back to my sanctuary running because I knew I could find God, and he's really, really calling me to this. And as I was running, I was praying, and God talks to me so clearly. It is the coolest, most divine thing. Anyway, I'm running and I'm praying. I'm like, God, but I'm a sinner. Remember that? And remember I did this and I did that. And, you know, I'm single. I'm not qualified. I don't have a big enough car. I don't have this. I don't have that. I don't have a house. And God's like, I know. You're going to go get your son. You know, and he kept giving me all the Bible verses, like, do not worry. Look at the birds of the field. If I take care of them, won't I take care of you? You know, I have the plans. I already know the plans that I'm going to do for you. Many other ways of people, but the Lord's ways prevail. And I'm trying to out-talk God from my calling. And of course you can't do that. He's God of the freaking universe. He created me and everything in it. So I have no control. But I'm trying to talk myself out of this. And at the same time, I knew my calling. I'm in denial. I'm in so much denial. So I was like, give me a sign. He's given me so many signs. And I was like, it was 103 degrees this day. Nobody was on the track. I just should not be running 3 miles at 103 degrees in Oklahoma on a trail that has hills. It's nuts. And I'm out there by myself. So I was like, God, give me a sign. The next person I see on this trail, I want them to be Asian. So if they're Asian, I will know that it's true, right? I'm running. Guys, true story. Next corner, I turn around, an Asian lady. I remember she has her headphones on. I stop and I turn and I look at her like she probably thinks I'm a freak. But I was like, holy, that's an Asian lady. I was like, oh my God, like, you're serious. Like, this is nuts. I was like, I surrender. I'll sacrifice everything. Apparently, for whatever unbeknownst reason to me, I'm supposed to do this. And that day, I finished my 3 miles. I'm sure it took me, I have no idea. I was sweating. I left the track with peace. It was that day I knew my answer, no matter what was going to happen. And I started the process. I'm going to back up a little bit because I forgot to tell you this one funny story about me during my my bickering and denial with God and my calling. When I was telling him, no, I want a husband. I don't want to do this alone again by myself. So I proved God wrong. I told him I was going to prove him wrong. So I go on these dating sites. So it's crazy nowadays. If y'all don't know, it's all these apps and you date, and it's nuts. It's so nuts, but it's entertaining to me too. But anyway, so I got on this website, or a couple of them. I had dates within a week. I think I had 4 or 5 out of the blue. I'm like, God, I'm going to go get me a husband. I'm going to prove you I don't have to do this by myself. I'm going to find me the man of my dreams. We're going to get married, and then we're going to adopt. So I get on these dating sites, and I remember I would go on these dates and I get so excited. I get dressed up, put on my heels, shave my legs, do my hair. It was a lot longer back then. I just cut it. And go on these dates. And I would sit there, beautiful people, beautiful men. And the whole time God is like, what are you doing? You have a son out there. Go get him. I'm like, stop. This is my date. You're ruining my date, God. So I'm like, sure, maybe that guy didn't work out. I'm going to go for another one. So then I go like the next day, right? Some other guy on a site, and I meet him, and I get dressed up, and I'm getting my hopes up. Yes, I'm not going to be alone anymore. This is going to be great. I go out there, and God's like, Sherry, I told you, your son is out there. What are you doing trying to date people that aren't for you? Dang it, God. You're always ruining my dates. So I'm like, screw it. That lasted like a week and I deleted all my stuff. So I'm like, okay, God, I guess you are serious. I can't even date, right? So back to just me, right? It's just me and God now. God is my husband now. So as that was kind of a side step. And as you know, so the story went on and I started the adoption process. I started looking up boys, and the moment I talked to agencies and they sent me pictures and referrals of these boy orphans, this is my passion, I totally fell in love. And God softened my heart, which I thought couldn't be done. Adoption is hard. These kids are not easy. They're trauma kids. And I was like, God, why are you having me do another one? And they're older. Older is a whole nother spectrum. They're amazing. They're amazing. And so I go through the process. On August the 28th, I said yes to my son. I was reviewing his file. And I don't know if you know, but at adoption agencies, they only get the child's file for so long, then they have to go back. And I remember this one, my agency, says, Sherry, have you looked at this little boy? And I'm like, no, I don't know. He just didn't catch my eye. And I was like, but I'll look at him, that's fine. So I go look at his file and I asked them, how long do you have it? And they're like, well, we lose it in 48 hours. And I was like, oh my God. So I'm reviewing it and I'm praying. And the next day I knew I had to make the decision. I'm pacing my bathroom floor. I'm crying. You guys, the weight of this little boy's fate is on my shoulders. If I say yes within this 24-hour time frame, he has a forever family. If I say no, I don't know. He's older. He's a boy. They're the unwanted. They're the least of the least of the least of these. He's also special needs, right? And I'm like, God, how do I make such a rash, hard... Nobody knows I'm even thinking about adopting besides me and God. And we've been battling this like hell all summer long, actually for 2 years. And now you come to the wire at 24 hours. Okay, so I'm walking, I'm pacing, and I was supposed to meet somebody for lunch that day. And I look awful. I had tears in my eyes and I went to lunch. And after lunch, I was like, I'm going to say yes to this file. And I felt at peace with it. After this lunch, I go back. And I said yes. August the 28th of this year, I said yes to my new son. As you know, I am now in the process of adopting him. Before I adopted him, it was so hard for me. As you saw in my stories, how I was physically battling this out with God. Hold on. Sorry, my dog's here. I knew one of my biggest battles was going to be telling my son, who was the only child for 10 years, that he's getting another brother, not only another brother, a brother from China. And then I had to tell my family, which I thought they would kill me. And I also had to tell my boss. And I also had to tell my friends, and I didn't know how anybody would react to this because obviously my reaction was not good. And so I was like, okay, God, I'll do this, but now I gotta tell Cade that we're adopting. And at this point, I've already went through all of this all alone. I know I kept it secret. I kept it silent because I didn't want to speak it out loud. What you speak out is actually going to come to fruition. So I wasn't going to say it. Obviously, I just journal it and just yell out to God about this one. So now I have him, and I do have him. I do know who he was. So I got to tell Cade now because it's going to go fast. And I remember I'm so nervous. He's 11 years old. I'm nervous for 11-year-old boy, his reaction. But I love Cade so much. And I remember we're driving to swim practice. I was like, okay, I'm going to get the courage, and in this car on the way to swim, I'm going to break the news. Real soon we're getting a brother. So I didn't know how to say it to him because I didn't know if he would be on board with it or not. As we're driving, I question Cade. I go, Cade, what do you do if God tells you to do something? Do you obey him or do you not? And he goes, well, Mom, you obey God. I go, but Cade, what if it's really hard and you don't want to do it? It takes a long time, it's expensive, and you probably shouldn't do it. Do you obey God or not obey God? He goes, well, I guess you obey God then. I mean, my gosh, my 11-year-old gets it better than I do, right? So I'm like, okay, well, Cade, God spoke clearly to me, and you're getting a brother from China, and we're going to be adopting again. And Cade, he's so sweet. He goes, okay, Mom, that's okay. But I do have a question. What's his need? He knows sister, and a lot of the babies from China have special needs. And I go, Cade, his biggest need is you, a family. And I go, another funny thing about your little brother, he's the same as you. He has a heart condition that you had the same one when you were little. He has ASD, it's a hole in his heart. I actually forgot about this. My bio son, Cade, actually had ASD. When he was 6 months old, we were living in South Carolina at the time. He had a hole in his heart, and he had to have EKGs and everything. The heart murmurs, it's so common. A lot of babies have them, and they close in time. If they're small enough, they close. And I told Cade this, and Cade goes, you never told me about this. Yeah, I didn't know I had a heart problem. I was like, you don't, baby. It's healed. I forgot about it. I don't even think about it. So, and I don't know with my son. We will soon find out. He may have the heart surgery, or I don't know. Anyhow, so Cade's like, okay, that's fine. And he goes off to swim. And I'm like, oh, thank God. Like, my biggest fear was just overcome. Cade accepted it. And then, of course, I told Ashlyn. She's, obviously way more than excited. Well, my other biggest step was my mom and dad. So my mom and dad live in Enid, and I'm scared to tell my family. They have no idea what all just happened to me. They didn't know I've been battling this. They have no idea. I already have him picked out, and I'm already assigned to him, and he's already off the agency sites. I'm afraid to tell them, so I mail them my righteous way, a package. I wrote them this long letter, which actually is the first entry to my blog. If you guys want to check it out, onemorepanda.blogspot.com. The first entry is actually a letter that I wrote to my parents that describes everything. But I signed it. Whenever I sent it to them, I put, Dear Mom and Dad, congratulations, you're gonna have a new grandson. Like, not that that's gonna give them a heart attack or anything. And I told him, no, we're adopting. I've been called to do this, on and on and on. And I signed it. Don't be mad at me, because I knew they were going to kill me, right? Like, I'm going to have 3 kids. I said, don't be mad at me. Be mad at God. Sherry. And I sent it in the last page of it. I said, whenever you're ready, call me, and I'll send you all the pictures and video of him. And I sent that off. Oh my God, you guys, that was the longest 2 days of my life for that package to get to Enid from Edmond. And my mom texted me, and I was like, oh man, I better start picking out grave sites. I'm gonna be dead pretty soon. And her text was, oh my gosh, show me all the pictures. And I was just like, oh, yay, thank you, Jesus. I'm alive. So I sent them the pictures of my son that I have. And they're so excited. Then I had to tell my boss, which was hard, but my boss, he's the best boss in the world. He goes, I'll support your passion. And that's all he said. And, you know, that was good. He's like, whatever you need from us, we'll make it work. It's fine. You've done this before. We'll do it again. Then I had to tell my friends, all of you guys watching this on Facebook, I'm like, oh man, I'm going to get deleted from everybody's friend account. They're going to hate watching my story, hate watching this. And to be honest, I was shocked by the response. A lot of you even watching this were so nice and compassion and like excited, or at least said that on there. I was shocked. The crazy thing about all of that is the only one blocking me from my passion was me. My son got it, my parents got it, my work got it, and my friends got it. The only one holding me back is me. The only one holding you back from your dreams and your passion is you. You're the only thing that stands in the way. I stood in my own way. I could have already been and had him if I would have just said yes the first time. I'm very disobedient. And I'm very, I don't know the word. I listen to God, but I'm like a teenager to him. I was kicking and screaming, having a temper tantrum, telling him no, I can't. I'm not equipped for this. But God doesn't call the equipped. He equips the called. And I told him, God, if you're going to call me to this, you're going to have to provide everything, mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally. This is tiring. It is. I'm going to have 3 and nobody to fall back on. And you, God of all people, know this more than anybody. You know my struggles and my weaknesses. I don't know if I can do it. I was like, God, you have to send extra Holy Spirit on me to persevere through this and be patient through this, because I humanly can't do this. And God says, with God, all things are possible. And I'm like, then I'm with you, because I can't do it. So I'm learning. I'm a stubborn learner. You know, it takes a lot of time to tell me before I can do something. So you're watching my story. It's unfolding before your eyes. Actually, at the same time it's unfolding before my eyes. I have no idea. I have no idea why God picked me, why God picked this particular boy and gave me a 24-hour time frame to change the fate of all of us. I don't know. I'm reminded of Mary. You guys know Mary, Jesus' mom in the Bible. She's one of my heroes. God came to her at a bad time and told her she's gonna have a baby. She was young. It was culturally unaccepted. She could have gotten a divorce, but he gave her the greatest blessing, Jesus. And I'm like, so God, if you can take a normal girl at the most inappropriate time as this and provide her that, then what are you doing to me? Are there blessings coming from this? You know, what am I supposed to do? So it's a leap of faith. It's a leap of faith in the darkness. That's not my story. This is not what my 9th grade paper went back to. I had my life spelled out. I was supposed to have 3 kids and only 1 from China, and I was supposed to be married. I did not write in there a divorce, and I definitely did not write 2 from China. I don't know why this is, but it's God's story, and I'm just holding on. God told me during this, hold on, he goes, I'm already on the other side. He goes, all you have to do, Sherry, is take the first step. I'm already in China with your son. Come, just come. And I just say, no, it's too hard, it's scary, it's risky, it's unknown. I can't do it. And God said, I'm already there. He goes, I already made the way, and you're the only one holding you back. You have to take the step. And that's when I'm like, fine, open hands. I have to let go. It's the hardest thing to do. I'm like, God. So I say open hands a lot. Actually, through my divorce, I would do this a lot because I hold on to everything. I hold on to my marriage, my career, my babies, my money, my everything. If you let go, that's when everything changes and the best happens. So I walk around sometimes like this, or I run because I'm letting go. And open hands, I surrender. This is 110% sacrifice for me, physically, mentally, everything I give to my kids. I don't know. I only know because I'm doing it because I love God. And if you love God, you have to obey God, even if it's the hardest thing. And right now, this is hard for me. So I'm letting go. And he's taking over. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what my son's going to look like or react or why, or maybe there's a greater purpose in him. I don't know. Except I know I'm supposed to go. So this is my unfinished story. You're going to be surprised as I'm surprised as it unfolds. But I know it's going to be a great story because it's not my story, but it's God's story. It has nothing to do with me. I'm just here. I feel like I'm just the pawn and he's moving. But sometimes the pawn has temper tantrums and holds back when sometimes you just got to let go and let the God of the universe move it, because he can move mountains in ways you would not expect, and have the greatest life. So, whenever I was going through my divorce, the book of James that God gave me, James 2, consider this great joy of many trials. If you read on, that same exact chapter finishes where I'm at right now, James 1:27. Religion that our God accepts as pure and faultless is this: to look after orphans and widows. That is not only my passion, but it's a command from God. If we obey all the other commands in the Bible from God, why don't we obey that one? And I'm speaking to myself because he called me to look after this orphan, and I don't want to, or I didn't want to. I do now. Now my heart has been softened. It's been broken again. Why? I don't, I'm just walking in faith on this one. So my story is being written. I'm trying my best to be obedient. And when people ask, how are you a single mom with almost 3 kids and work full time, and my kids are so busy, and we're running 100 miles an hour, and people are like, how do you do it? I'll give you the secret. This is how I do it. This is a Bible. This is my life. This is my energy. This is how I make it through the day. This is all the instructions. This is everything you need to know. Without this, I am nothing. When I am weak, this is super strong. This is a sword. This has fought many battles for me. Sometimes I don't agree with them and I fight them, but this is how I make it. Whenever I was going through the adoption with Ashlyn, and they tell you to read all these parenting books and counseling books and about kids and this and that, and I was overwhelmed by it, to be honest. And I didn't know where to start. I'm clueless, but I knew this was what I was supposed to do. And I was like, God, I'm not going to read those books. You know what book I am going to read, though? The Bible. Her process took me a little over a year. It took me 19 months, and I read this book cover to cover. I already knew Jesus at this time, and my God, I found him again reading this book. I fell in love with the Old Testament. I never thought I did. And the cool thing about reading the Old Testament, and I did it parallel with the New Testament, and it actually comes to me now, reading it, is by our ancestors, Abraham, Moses, Samson, Jonah, David, all of these people are actually in our bloodlines, if you really want to know, and also our forefathers of our Christian faith, reading their battles. But their battles were sometimes more physical, mine are more spiritual. What they did out of faith. And I'm like, you know what, God? If Moses can part the sea, which is an impossible task, right? But with God, then how can I not just get $30,000? Like, to you, a God of the universe that can do all these powerful things I read about in the Old Testament and New, how could this also come to fruition, to actually be reality? And that is where I get my faith and my confidence and my craziness. If my ancestors of the Bible a long time ago can do all of this, and the Holy Spirit wasn't even with them, Jesus wasn't even here, it was just only God at that time, and they did it, I have the Spirit with me, and Jesus was already here. I can do all of this. So that's my story. I know I could talk for a long time about this. I hope the reason I did all this, I know it's super long, I just hope it's an encouragement to somebody, or brings some positive or some love. If you're in a battle now, I'm actually kind of in the middle of a storm, but the funny thing is I am the storm. I create my own storms, apparently. To keep walking in the unknown of faith, because great things are going to come from it. And if you have a calling like I did, and you know, and you just try not to listen, I challenge you to listen to that and step in it, no matter what people think. It doesn't matter what people think, because the one you're going to answer to in the end, there's only one you're answering to, and that's God. It doesn't matter what your family thinks. Some of my family may not even be on board with what I'm doing. Yeah, it's crazy. Some of my friends, I've had comments to me, they do not like what I'm doing. I understand that. I don't answer to them, and I don't care what their judgment is on me, because I know who the judge is. So take your faith, it will become bold and strong, and step out and do what you know you're supposed to do, because we're all part of the body. And if we all do what we're actually supposed to do, we can change the whole face of this planet. It's just we're too afraid or scared or lacking of faith that we don't even do what we're called to do. So I pray that you guys find some encouragement in this. I've been through hell and back. I'm just like you. I'm a sinner, probably worse than half of you. I'm a hypocrite. Yes, I'm everything. But one thing I am forgiven. I am loved. And I am chosen. And I have chosen my children, because not only are they chosen, we're chosen too. We are adopted. I am them and they are me. We're equal. There's no difference in us. We are both human, and God both has a plan for us, and God died for us, even though they're my orphans in China. There is a plan and a calling and a purpose for all of that. And I know there's a calling and a purpose for me. It's just me doing it. And it's the hardest thing to do. I just hope that encourages somebody, or maybe understands my craziness of why I do what I do or how I do it. Hopefully somebody will find some positive in this. But this is my raw, transparent, honest self of how it's come to be, what I'm doing. And I hope to travel, I don't know, maybe in May or June back to China. I'm praying my kids can go with me. They both want to go. Cade wants to go see where little brother's from. And of course, Ashley wants to go back to her home country, for the first time. So, pray with us in that. And the rest, open hands, is God's. And God's going to take these and do his will. So anyway, I appreciate you guys all watching. I hope I have friends left after this. So, let go and let God. Thanks.